Ready. Okay. I'd like to call to order the March 17th Urban Renewal Agency meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Roll call. All count agents are present except Marissa Jacobs, excused absence. You guys have had a chance to look at the agenda, so I'm looking for a motion to approve tonight's Urban Renewal agenda.
Moved.
Agent Augen makes a move to accept tonight's agenda. Any seconds? Second by Agent Santiago. All in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any public comment? Anybody online? We'll close public comment for now. Moving on to the consent agenda, which is approval of last minutes. November 18, 2024 Urban Renewal Agency meeting minutes. Anybody have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda by Agent Santiago. Any seconds?
Second.
Second by Agent President Miller.
You know what you mean.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Why we are here tonight. We have a Shadley Shack grant application. Assistant to City Manager and City Planner NJ Johnson with the staff report.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. So tonight we are here to discuss a possible amended award to a project that you all approved an allocation for back in July of 2024. As a reminder, due to some policy changes to the Urban Renewal Grant Program, you all put in a provision that allows, in case of a project change or costs go up with how fast that is adjusting these days, you all allowed a provision for the applicant of a previous award to submit a letter of explanation requesting why they are requesting a changed award. And Paul Syracusa, of the property owner of the site that hosts Shadley's Coffee Shop, has submitted that. It's on page 20 of the packet or Exhibit B. So essentially, the backstory of this is you all approved the grant, and like any public improvements, Mr. Syracusa had to get right-of-way permits and engineering done. And during some pre-construction meetings with city staff, including the Public Works Director and city engineer, kind of looked at the site, and we have a city-owned public alley that is just to the west of the coffee shop and goes quite a stretch parallel to the highway and First Street in between those two. And we thought with that driveway, they were originally proposing just doing a 12-foot standard commercial driveway, but Dave had pointed out that if we widen it to 24 feet, we can kind of get a mutual benefit, here, because the driveway for the whole, both the private side and the public side, was not in good shape at all, hence the grant award. And it also just provides for better access and circulation. People in my couple site visits, people are now actually using the alleyway more because it's been recently improved. So work is complete. You can see the pictures in the back of the packet tonight. The contractor did a really good job. And so due to the increased cost of doing the city's right-of-way as well as the private frontage, the applicant is requesting for an amended award. So going down to the math, the total project cost was $64,106, and the receipts are included. The maximum grant award with the 50% rule for urban renewal would be $32,053. $17,000 has already been awarded for this project back in July. And so that leaves an effective maximum eligible grant award of $15,053. Staff is recommending the full award for this grant. Like I mentioned, the contractor did a really good job. It has a really, really nice added benefit, both for the coffee shop and for keeping the city's right-of-way circulation in really, really good shape. So, customers benefit from it, the public. sidewalk also looks really good. The contractor had to do quite a bit of collaboration with the PUD, including moving their power pole. But we were able to get that figured out so that it wasn't right in the middle of the driveway, because that's where it used to be. So a really, really good project here that the city would like to support, again, for particularly for the upgrade in cost due to the public alleyway. So yeah, that would be our presentation and report. Mr. Syracuse wished he could be there. He'll have to stand on the letter in our presentation, though.
Thank you. Yes, Agent Sonia.
And Jay, so my understanding, so you said this will be good for the city, right? So I'm a little kind of confused. I'm confused because is it a city thing or is it the grantee's responsibility? So is it,
Right.
would we be putting some money into it? Why would we be putting the rest of the grant funding?
That's a great question. Yeah, so it's kind of on the portion of the driveway, it's kind of half and half. For the entire frontage of like the whole sidewalk improvements, when you go by square footage, it ends up being about 20% city side, 80% private side. The alleyway is owned and operated. It's public right away. It's like a smaller street essentially. And so they didn't have to widen the driveway. They didn't have to improve because it's essentially on our frontage of that right of way the driveway sits. So they expanded it to be wider, and it just ended up being a mutual benefit. Again, they get better circulation, and we, don't have a driveway in poor condition anymore in front of that alley.
So do we have funds to cover the 20% as a city, or have we budgeted that or included? Because you said 20 for us and 80 on the applicant. So
Yeah, I'll let Ben speak to where the money could come from. We wanted to at least see what you all thought in terms of urban renewal, because it does improve the entire area. It improves the look of it a lot. And so it kind of has like a very urban renewal feel to the project.
And did the city spend any money out of their budget, any of this work?
Not to date.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
Like, we didn't extend the sidewalk because it was good to do. I mean, they paid for everything there, every new thing they did.
Right. Thus far, they have, other than the grant, 17,000 that we had. There were discussions about where the city was going to cut, what portion we were going to pay and where that was going to come from out of our funds. It's ultimately determined as the project progressed and the speed of that it would be the best fit to bring it back to the Urban Renewal Fund anyways, because this is a grant for that purpose. And since we have this provision to bring it back, as opposed to taking out of a street fund or gas tax or anything else that we weren't originally planning out of, it would better fit with this grant proposal. Because the whole point of the Urban Renewal Grant is to have a public and private benefit where we're increasing our downtown businesses, helping them grow, progress, as well as in this particular item, we also had public improvements that were not originally there, but they benefit both parties. So it really was just a great public-private partnership, but we felt that this fund was the best way to come back and get those
Nice to
funds.
hear that it was a good relationship, a good program. Hopefully that word will spread amongst others in the neighborhood.
Mhm.
They'll see that the city will work with them and we can mutually work and get a lot of stuff done there. I noticed they had blacktop the whole driveway too. They had paid for that outside of this fund, this grant application. At the same time, we had another grant application on another road. They have withdrawn that grant application.
Are you talking about the log cabin?
Yeah.
Yep.
'Cause we,
Correct.
at that time, we had authorized all these grants. Well, that one's been pulled, so that we're not waiting to pay on that one at this time.
No, and the lodge has been completed and reimbursed.
So the money is there. We will get more each year, obviously, but put in there all of our funds that we have at this time. That will leave money for more applications if we don't have any applications pending. Any in the beginning stages you've heard?
We have one that last week we had a pre-proposal meeting with someone that wants to improve the Columbia Feed and Supply store. They're coming in, new business. They've got really, really great ideas. We're all pretty excited about it. But But that's in the early stages. You all would be actually considering that in July at the soonest. And so that new funding will have come online at that point.
That would be, Urban, AEDC will look at that first.
Correct, yeah, in June.
So if we approve this, it'll leave 38,141 in the URA.
Correct. And then with about 30 to 35 more coming online July 1.
Okay. Do we have an idea of what, is it going to stay the feed seed or is it going to become something else?
It will, yeah. It's more of like an expansion of the business, honestly. They want to keep things like farm supplies, machine repair, but they want to do more like interactive with classes and things like that. I do want to point out too, Mr. Siracusa has made it to the meeting. If you all have any questions for him specifically.
Happy with the work? Jay was saying they did a really good job. We were very pleased with the work. I know it was kind of a bad time of weather, work around some things, I'm sure, but looks really good. I drive that road a lot. Turns on each one, but hopefully that will kind of get that whole area, starting to look at improving. And thank you.
But you need a motion, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I've got one just clarification. So NJ in the correspondence earlier, the $10,147 figure is a calculation of the city's portion, correct?
Correct. Do you want to speak to that? You're leaning in.
Well, I was just gonna say, it's one of the figures that we'd use. We have different ones that we were looking at, depending on how in detail we need to go, depend on this grant, if we need to, sort of, for example, if the Development Commission here didn't approve anything, we have to go back and really nail down those numbers, what that city side or portion really was, as well as which portions to include. So it's kind of a little bit of ambiguity on which ones we would normally qualify as what we were paying for compared to what's theirs, even though it's in the public right of way. So yeah, it's the one that NJ had come up with for sure. That is an estimate of where those would come from.
Right, and it's based on square footage of the total improved area, essentially.
Just a rough calculation.
Correct, and it comes out to about or a little less even than 20% of the whole project is so 15 to 20% about is the quote unquote public portion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd support the full grant. I think it makes what this grant's all about.
Would you like to make a motion to adopt the grant application amendment to award an additional $15,053?
I can make the motion if
Okay.
you'd like. Yep, Mr. Mayor, I move that council adopt NJ Johnson Grant Program Administrator's recommendation of awarding $15,053 as part of the URA program to, right, looking for the official name of the requestor here,
Lowly Investments.
what NJ said.
So we have a motion by Agent Miller to adopt the,
Is it?
He was gonna say it.
Oh, okay.
motion to adopt
Yeah,
grant
if you wanted me to do that.
application amendment that NJ prepared to award an additional $15,053. So the total maximum of grant will be $32,053. Seconds? Second by Agent Friends. Any more discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to abstain because I wasn't part of the original process.
Steam, no more discussion?
Well, I just wanted, is there anything, Mr. Paul, that you wanted to add into this conversation, or did you agree?
So,
He came.
All that work.
Do you mean for my project?
The project that we were discussing, yes. Isn't that what we're discussing, your project here?
Are you talking about mine or his?
It's
my recommendation about your project.
Okay. Two things, after the project, in July, when I was here, and we were discussing this, I said, you know, there's things that crop up that aren't necessarily on that project. Well, things did crop up. There was a proposal from Wallace Construction I submitted for $16,000. That was after the fact. After that, during that 16,000 was $5,261 that the city was on city land, was on the city, was on the alley. It was approved by Chris, city engineer, and I'm requesting payment of this amount, $5,261, in addition to what has already been paid. There was no negative from Chris about that money. He thought it was okay and fair. So that's part of it. The other part is after we went through this, I understand the city Urban Renewal Agency had come up with some new ideas. November 18th, 2024. One of which was engineering, pay for engineering, design work, including civil or architectural plans that is necessary for permitting of the proposed improvements. Now that was not paid for to me under the original plan. I would like to discuss what you people think about it. I think I should be paid half of the amount based on the 50% of the plan, of the overall plan. That's all I got to say.
Now I'm confused.
Right, and Paul, just to reiterate, their current motion is to pay 50% of the total project at this point. So that would give up to the full amount of the receipts, or the 50% of the receipts that were given, including all of what you had mentioned there.
That equals the
If it-
15,000.
You got it right. We had originally awarded 17,000. At the time, that was possibly 50% of the project,
Closer, yeah.
close to it. And then we understood of these additions, and part of it was city, right away. And so NJ bringing this back to us asked us to look at that additional amount. So we're voting on an additional $15,053 on top of the original 17,000.
Which will equal the total maximum award that we can allow of 32,053.
But that's
Is that your
based on a $64,000 project. And I'm sure you've had other costs that are,
Oh yeah, your 50% was.
so yeah, so we've your project, his recommendation, and you kind of missed, they recommended that this was good for the city. This is a good opportunity, and they recommended that we pay the additional and out of this fund, out of the urban renewal versus a street fund or an SDC fund or gas tax. So we are voting on to effectively maximize that grant out to $32,053.
That makes sense. Is that your understanding as well?
Well, understanding is it's been sort of, well, maybe, maybe not.
This is new to us, the whole grant application, and we are working with it as we go and trying to improve it and add things.
Oh, I understand.
Such as the engineering and, we've only had a few cases, applications, and so we really want to make sure we do the best we can. And so things might change over time, but we're happy about the opportunities to do this, and this is a good fit for us. So.
Okay.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state.
Hey, 1 minute, you're saying that you're gonna award an additional 15,000?
Did you
Top of
want,
the
did you want
original.
less than that?
I put up plenty, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I just add something for the note? I think it's important that we acknowledge that typically when an applicants apply for a grant, it's the criteria that's already in effect. We just have to be careful, I think. In this case, we are kind of grandfathered in the criteria, but when the applications are in, based on that year's approved criteria. So,
Okay.
just wanted that.
Yeah, and I do remember there are things that we weren't sure of at the time.
That's right.
Additional cost potentially, and that's why we keep looking at our bylaws and can we add that ability to adjust as we go? And I think, and Jay's been working on this for a couple of years, all my 3 years here, and to make sure we don't miss anything. So yeah, so we, motion in a second to add an additional 15,050 to the grant award. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye, and Joel Haugen with an abstain, and, all those opposed? Motion carries.
We need to hang around.
Good.
You're good.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your help.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That was number 3, vote on the grant award, right? So we are done.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Meeting adjourned.